You're a footballer.
Just finished a session.
Chasing your dream of going pro.
If I can give it everything I thought, if I push myself to exhaustion, imagine it a game.
You want to ball out on the biggest stages.
And then Ronaldo!
So in today's video, I'm revealing the 7 lessons for footballers playing at any level to go pro. I signed to a pro academy 2 years after warming the bench on my Sunday league team at age 16. I was terrible at football, and no matter what you see on TikTok or what people say, that is not normal at all. But it is because I followed these 7 lessons. So what I'm about to share with you today not only has helped me sign to a professional academy at 18 years old, it has also helped hundreds of others achieve the exact same thing. So the first lesson you need to know if you want to go pro is that the simpler your training, the faster you improve. You see, when I was 16, I was caught in a trap of overcomplicating everything. I wasn't getting any better, but when I finally fixed it, I started improving fast, like really fast. You see, when I first started training, my first immediate thought was go on YouTube. That's what everyone else is doing. And that's when I got exposed to using things like these, thinking the more fancier, the more cooler it looks, the better it's gonna be for me. And it actually had the opposite effect. And that's when I started using these. On YouTube, you get random drills like this, the Ronaldinho. And just because it looks cool, you start doing it. And the next thing you know, your whole training when you go out to the field is 10 different drills like this all in one day. So you end up doing very advanced drills like this when you can't even juggle the ball. And it may feel like you're getting better, but it's actually having the opposite effect. You have to understand where you are in your development. If you don't have the right technique, then that's what you should be prioritizing, because the real game is played through the basics. And with the right technique, the game becomes easier. So instead of doing this when you can't even do cone weaves, there's no point. You're not improving as much as you could be. That's what I did. With no strategy, I did the YouTube training. I ended up just hopping from one complicated drill to another complicated drill. And I remember months, weeks later, I wasn't getting any better. I actually started getting worse because I didn't have the right technique down. I was trying to do something I'm not ready for. That's when I went back to very basic drills. Football at the highest level is the basics, just done at really fast game speed. That's all it is. And every single footballer has mastered the right technique in every area of the game. So understand where you are in terms of your development. If you're struggling with the very basics, start off at that level, then gradually make it harder to challenge techniques so it becomes muscle memory. You see, this is cool, but sometimes training on your own isn't as important as you may think. And that's why I got my friend here. Okay, this is my cousin, and this is lesson 2, which is that individual training isn't actually that important. So why does every footballer do it nowadays? Because that's what they've been told to do, which is completely wrong. Now, before I get flamed in the comments, just listen up, because there's a reason for all of this. And this guy is gonna help me break it down. Imagine you spend months doing 1v1 drills, hoping you can improve and come back as a different person. But then you take it into a game, into training, and you can't seem to beat anyone. You know that your skills are good, so why can't you win 1v1s? That's because you were training wrong. You forgot the most important part, playing the real game. I was a victim to this myself, but why do you think my best skill is 1v1s? It's because all I did was play real games against real people. And now beating players comes naturally to me. I can understand a defender's movements because that's how I trained. But how do you think step overs became my secret weapon? Individual training. Individual training is very important. I still did it every day. I tell my students to do it every day, but it shouldn't come first. The real game always comes first. Individual training is always supplementary to the real game. Now for the third lesson to go pro is that you need to take care of your mind. Yes, I know mindset doesn't matter, but hear me out. Because your mind is the most important thing you have as a footballer. And it could be the reason why you're not where you want to be right now. Your mindset is the single thing that you can control. You can't control anything else in life but your mind. If you have a weak mind, you won't get very far in football. And the single thing that made Ronaldo the greatest footballer of all time is his mindset. Back at Manchester United, when an interviewer interviewed Ronaldo and asked him, who do you think is the best footballer of all time? He said himself.
Who's the best player in the world ever? Me.
That's how confident and that's how much he believed in his ability, and that's how resilient his mindset was, that then he eventually became that thing that he spoke about years before. Because he believed in his ability and he knew he was going to get there regardless of what happened. Even back when he was at Juventus in his late 30s, there was a video that circulated where he said he's his own chef, he's his own trainer, he does his own recovery, he's his own mental trainer, and that's what gave him longevity in the game.
I'm my own medic. I am my mental coach, my nutritionist, my doctor. If you do the right things, you're gonna be better than other persons.
Yo bro, film over there real quick. A little bit to the left. Keep going. Because lesson number 4 is whether you're just starting out or at the highest level, nobody's cheering you on. Football is the hardest job to make it in, and in 1 second, everything could be taken away from you. It's extremely lonely, which is why self-belief is the most powerful skill to have as a footballer. Self-belief is when you don't know you're gonna make it, and then doubt starts to kick in. And once you don't feel like you can make it, that's when you stop working hard, and that's when your confidence drops, you feel overwhelmed, you end up staying at the same level, or even worse, dropping below the level you're currently at. It honestly changed my life once I learned how to build self-belief, and I want to share with you that right now. When you believe in yourself and you believe in your abilities, and that inspires you to keep working harder and to want to do more, to want to watch that film, to want to do everything to get that edge, and it makes football more enjoyable. For me in my career, where I made the most improvement, where I jumped 3 levels in a singular year, a lot of it came down to self-belief. There were times where I wasn't performing, I wasn't doing well. The only thing that drives me to want to push and become better was my ability to believe in myself, because I knew I was a really good footballer. And so I kept working hard until I made that thought into a reality. And I knew I was always going to sign to a professional academy. And my training, my work ethic, and everything resembled that of a professional academy footballer, because I knew I was eventually going to get to that level. So how can you build self-belief yourself? Well, there was 2 practices that drastically helped me start to believe in myself and my ability. First was visualization. Your brain doesn't know the difference between imagination and real life. So when you visualize yourself, believing in yourself, believing in your abilities, what happens is your perception of yourself starts to shift, which is how you think about yourself, how you see yourself. Visualization is super important. It's what I did every morning when I woke up and every night before I went to sleep, and that's still what I do today every single day. That's the one thing in my training that doesn't change. It doesn't take long, and it's the most valuable part of my training. Second is affirmations.
I'm the best!
Because language is super important. Language starts to manifest itself. As a human, you operate mainly off of your subconscious, which is the part of your mind that doesn't think, it just does. And one way to feed into your subconscious to alter your self-belief is affirmations. It's telling yourself you're good enough. Yo, did you see that shot? Get that in. That guy's insane. Instinct. Instinct is the 5th lesson that'll get you to the pro level. We've all heard it before, but what actually is it? Because if instinct was the factor getting me to a professional academy, what is it and how can you use it to get the same results? Instinct is how your body reacts to what's happening around you, and this happens without you even thinking about it. Just like when you're breathing or swallowing food, just made you aware you're breathing, didn't I? Instincts are built into our brains, and no matter what level, every professional player plays through instinct. They spend so much time playing and mastering football that when they play, they do not think. They just perform effortlessly. And we know that because there's a study done on Neymar scanning his brain activity while he dribbled. He wasn't stressing about making mistakes or what he's gonna eat after the game. They found that his brain activity was less than 10% that of an amateur. He's rarely thinking at all. And it's not just him, because Messi, Hazard, and Mahrez has had the same.
Yeah, it's like instinct.
Yeah, it's instinct.
So why is it so important? How do pro players have it, and why don't you? Well, a study was done that showed that instinct isn't just faster, it's way faster than the thinking parts of your brain. And football is an extremely fast sport, especially at the higher levels. So when you get to the elite game, just thinking will be too slow. You'll make bad decisions, take too long, and absolutely get crunched. So here's how to build instinct like the pros. First is unrestricted training. All it is free flow training with no restrictions and without using any cone. Until now, you've probably been training with cones, which is programming your mind to play with limitations. You have to do it in a specific pattern to go through it and to finish the drill, which is the opposite of what we want. When you're in a game and you have to make a decision, especially in high pressure situations, it's too slow and you're gonna lose the ball. This is where instincts comes into play. Instincts is your body's natural response to what's happening around you, which is what we want to train. So unrestricted training is a really good way to program your mind to learn how to play freely and learn to trust and rely on its natural instincts. The best way to train unrestricted is to visualize defenders coming at you, just like in a game, passing, dribbling, shooting, receiving, dribbling into space, every aspect of the game. Just like in a game, because there's no limitations in a game. Everything is just free flowing, because not every 1v1 situation is a step over to going out. Just like you might be practicing against cones. You're gonna have to try different combinations. You're gonna understand how to beat a player based on how the defender is reacting, and you just have to be yourself. And you have to be creative, which is gonna massively transform your game. To play through instincts, you need to be in the present moment, and meditation is going to help you with that. The last thing we want is to focus on what's happening after or what happened before the game, which creates nervousness, which causes us to overthink, and we start playing stress, which simply affects our ability to play through instinct. At the professional academy, the speed of play was much quicker than the level previous. The level previous, the speed of play was fast. At the BCSPL level, which is ECL National League for a lot of you in America, speed of play is fast, the players are quick, but at the professional academy level, just imagine that times 5. Everyone could do the step over, everyone could do the body feint, everyone could beat a player in a 1v1. But what separated those players from the top at the academy was their speed of play. Everyone was so quick at making decisions. The jump up was ridiculously high, and at the academy, we got invited to train against the Canadian national team because they needed some extra players. I got to watch Alphonso Davies trained, I even guarded him, and how quick he was on the ball, how quick he was able to make decisions was lightning quick. And that's why he's the best fullback in the world. I remember this one player, Steven Eustáquio from the Canadian national team. He literally received the ball with his back turned. He saw that player make that run in a split second, chipped it over the fullback into the player's foot, threw on goal. Every single pass he made, every single decision that he made on the ball was 10 times faster than anything I've ever seen. His speed of play was ridiculous. And at the time he was playing for Porto, one of the best clubs in the world. Yo, what do you think that guy's doing over there? I don't know, that's kind of weird. Training 4 hours every day may feel like you're grinding, but most of the time, it's not helping at all. And that's because of what you're doing. How you train is more important than how long you train. And that's because of this list, the value ladder. You see, right here is a tool that got me to a professional academy. When I was 17, I decided to rank the training I did. What helped me the most and what didn't. And once I signed to a professional academy, I finally figured it out. At the very bottom, we got stamina. Stamina work is not very important because the best way to work on stamina is through playing the real game, because real in-game stamina is different to just running. When you run, most of the time you're following one pace and one speed throughout the whole run. In a real game, you're gonna be sprinting for a second, you're gonna stop, you're gonna go on a 20, 30 meter sprint, and you can't replicate that through stamina work. And actually going and spending time doing stamina work is not something that you should focus on. It's not that valuable. When you play the real game, you work on the aspect of the game directly. The next is lifting weights in the gym. This is a bit controversial, but strength training, especially as a youth, isn't as important as you may think. Because no matter how strong you are, if you simply just suck on the ball, you don't know how to control a pass, doesn't matter how strong you are, it will never make up for your actual on-ball skills. So being big, being strong is important, just not as important as actual on-ball skills. Just listen to what Thierry Henry had to say.
Did you go in the gym and do a lot of weights?
I never used to go to the gym.
No?
Never. I valued more minutes on the pitch than minutes in the gym.
He never went to the gym, and a lot of footballers never did growing up. So look at the upbringings of the professionals at the top of the game and do what they did, which is the model I like to follow. 95% of the time, most of their training was done on the ball. Rarely was it ever hitting the gym, and there's a reason for this. On-ball skills are more important. But the older you get, strength starts to become more important. Just keep that in mind. And above that slightly is speed training, like this and this. Everyone knows this, but speed kills. If you're a super fast player, especially a defender like Kyle Walker, athleticism is gonna really help amplify your game. You become unguardable and you become unbeatable. And depending on your position, it may be that X factor that gets you chosen over your competitors. And if you're able to combine it with the on-ball skills, you'll be unstoppable. You will be a player a lot of people fear, like Mbappe, Dembele, Kyle Walker, Alphonso Davies, and the list just goes on. Because if these players didn't have speed, they weren't fast, they wouldn't be half the player they are today. But what separates them from everyone else is how quick they are off and on the ball. Now, on ball skills, things that really matter. And first, individual training. The best way to work on your weaknesses and hone your strengths is through doing it individually. The more time you spend with the ball, the more comfortable and confident you're gonna be on the ball. For me growing up, individual training was the one thing I did consistently every single day, which then translated to my in-game performance. The more I individually trained following a very specific step-by-step formula, the better I became. I use individual training as an opportunity to correct my mistakes. If I sucked at something and I kept making that mistake in an actual game, I use individual training as an opportunity to go and work on that aspect of my game. So then when I went back into that environment, I was at 1% better. Now, as I mentioned earlier, the real game always comes first, which is why pickup is the second most important thing you can be doing in your training as a footballer. Pickup is you playing against other people in a small-sided environment. 4v4s, 5v5, 6v6. It could even stretch out to 11v11s, but that is usually rare. It's you just in a game, in that chaos, beating players, taking players on, and ultimately winning. This is super important because this is where you're gonna work on your skill. You're gonna beat players, take players on, just be the player you wanna be. As a winger, I knew the player I wanted to be, a techie, skillful winger. So I wanted to pick up, try different skills. Whenever I messed up, I learned from it and I applied it in the next one, and this is how I became the player I am. I use pickup as a means to improve and work on my skills and develop my own play style. And if you see, the players at the top of the game in the Premier League and La Liga are the most creative players. So pickup gives you an opportunity to express your creativity and develop your own play style. And the harder your competition, the better players you play against, the better you'll become. Growing up, I played pickup 3 to 4 times every single week on top of team training. And you see it a lot nowadays. Isaac talks about it.
Me growing up, I was always playing small-sided games.
Mahrez talks about it.
Everything I do is from the street. I learn in the street.
so many other players.
Do you think that's where you've learned your skills, is just playing in those tight little streets, keeping the ball close to your feet?
100%, mate, and obviously playing against older lads as well when I was younger.
This is how a lot of top players develop their play style growing up. And at the pinnacle is playing on a real team. Why is playing on a real team so high up? You thought I was really gonna tell you? No. And that is because lesson 7, thanks, is getting on a team. You need to play 11v11 football. You just have to. If you're not on a team, then your development and your skill level, it all becomes pointless, and your dream of going pro becomes 10 times harder to reach. Here's why. So if you're not playing 11v11 football on a real team, then you're not really improving. You're not really playing football, because no matter how much pickup, no matter how much individual training you do, if you don't understand how to play a real 11v11 match, nothing is gonna transfer to actually helping you improve. Your performances on here on a real team is what's gonna get you to that professional academy, professional team, college, whatever your goals are. Everything stems down to you joining and being on a real team. And how you do that is pretty simple. Just understand your league, understand the youth structure in your area, what are the levels from the very bottom to the top. And once you expose yourself to that environment, you're able to see, okay, what level am I at, what level am I not at, and then start at the level that you're currently at. Trial for those teams, and once you get on the team, individual train, pick up train, show up every single day, and constantly look to improve. And that's exactly what I did. And now that you know the 7 lessons that helped me sign to a professional academy, if you want to know the step-by-step journey I took to get there, go give this video a watch where I take you through every step I would take to go from a Sunday League baller to a professional academy. So if you're serious about becoming a baller, go watch this video, and I'll see you inside.